welcome back to another edition of First and 35 podcast. I'm your host, Gus Cousins, along with my co-host, Ben Jordan, and our current tech whiz, Smokey Graham. So we missed a lot last week since we were last recording a podcast. Mike Babcock isn't in the NHL anymore right now. Myles Garrett isn't playing in the NFL anymore right now. And Carmelo Anthony actually got a contract. So lots of stuff going on.
Along with the Astros sign-stealing cheating scandal.
That garbage,
with their,
cameras
in center field.
The CFL Grey Cup is happening this weekend. A lot to talk about. I think we should start with the Mike Babcock Leaf stuff. So
I think this was just due. The players didn't seem excited. No one seemed excited. No one wanted to listen to him. No one ran his systems. Fourth lines after you score is a joke. And the results really show with the first game. And I think Sheldon Keefe did a great job. I love bumping Mikheyev up to the second line. I love the increased minutes for Matthews. I loved Riley and Barry on the top pairing. And I think yesterday was just an example of a really complete game from the Leafs.
For those who don't know, the Leafs won 3-1 yesterday over Arizona. Barry scored his first goal. The Leafs scored first, which is great. Keefe got his first win, and Pierre Engvall scored his first in the NHL in a second game, I believe.
Yeah, and Matthews added just his second road goal of the whole year.
Second road goal. He has 15 goals overall, 13 at home, 2 on the road. And the Leafs actually won a game. They were on a 6-game losing streak. So they're trying to turn it around.
And heading into Denver tomorrow night.
Colorado playing Colorado tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how Keefe deals with their top line.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a good test.
First time for Barry homecoming and Barry versus Kadri. We'll see Kadri versus the Leafs for the first time.
What are the chances that Barry actually gets on a roll now?
I think pretty high. If they utilize him with top lines like they did yesterday, hence the results. I think we'll see a big point increase for Barry.
How many games in a row are they going to win with Sheldon Keefe to start his NHL career? I like Keefe. I think he'll be good, but
I'm going to go with 3. I think they take out Colorado. I think they beat Detroit and they split the Buffalo home and home.
They have 4 more road games?
They play Colorado on the road, Detroit on the road, Buffalo home and home.
So Babcock's out after all this time. One of the most winningest coaches ever, I would say. But
700 plus wins.
700 plus wins. Joel Quenneville had 900. He had more than 900, and he got axed. So I guess no one's really safe in this league. But yeah, that was a big move. Hopefully they can get back on track because they're 10-9 and 10-9 and something right now.
Yeah, 10-9 and 4.
And they're very close to they're 2 points out of a wild card spot or something.
They are.
I mean, they might be able to get back in it. Maybe not.
Both wild cards right now are sitting in the Metro, and I by the end of the season, I think both will be in the Atlantic. Whether it's Toronto, Florida, Montreal, either. I just think I don't know if Philadelphia is strong enough to continue what they've been doing, and I don't think Carolina is either.
On the flip side of the spectrum, so instead of losing 6 in a row, 2 teams that are on a roll are Dallas and the Islanders. The Islanders, who are, I think, 15-0-1 in their last 16 games.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's a streak that is insane, and I don't think we'll ever be beat again. Dallas is 12-1-1 in their last 14, so they're not as good as the Islanders, but that's pretty good too.
Yeah, I think a lot of credit to the coaching. I mean, they lose out on a Vezina candidate in Leonard, and they bring in Barry Trotz, and regardless of who's on their lines, they're just winning.
Greiss and Varlamov, one of the best 1-2 duos in the NHL, I think.
One of the best tandems. I'm not sure about one of the top
that's what I mean, tandems. Yeah. And I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of these good teams have good backup goalies and a goalie tandem. Like Dallas coming on with Hudobin and Bishop, the Islanders with Varlamov and Greiss, the
Bruins
Capitals
with Rask and Halak.
The Capitals with Holtby and the rookie Samsonov, who's done really well.
I don't think the Coyotes are too far behind either with Kemper and Ranta.
The Coyotes really also on a roll. Kemper and Ranta, neither one of them are really. I don't know how young they are. They're both mid-20s or something.
I think Ranta's younger.
He is.
Older than we think. Sorry, just because of all the injuries. We rarely see him, so whenever we get to see him, we're like, oh, it's Ranta, and Ranta's new, but
He's
been
good enough
around.
to be a starter, though, for some bad team.
He is 100%.
And even at the beginning of the year, they've tailed off now, but the Buffalo Sabres, when they had Hutton and then Linus Allmark is a decent backup. He's nothing great by any stretch of the imagination.
Just a little streaky, both of them.
A little streaky, both of them.
They go shut out 5 goals here and there.
Garrett Hathaway.
Yeah, Garnett Hathaway.
Not Garrett Hathaway.
Dinged 3 games for the altercation in the Blackhawks game, spitting on Eric Gustafsson.
I don't think... I mean, 3 games is, I guess, not a lot anyways, but I thought that was excessive. I just don't view spitting as the worst thing in the world. Obviously, I've never been spit on, and I don't play hockey. But
I think it's more the intent than the disgustingness of being spat on. I think they had no choice other than to suspend them.
Oh, yeah, I think...
the last thing you want is guys like Konrov and Marchand running around just spitting at each other.
Yeah, he was getting suspended one way or another. Yeah. But, I mean, Gustafsson popped him good. So, I mean, I can appreciate the retaliation, but maybe don't spit on the guy. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the biggest thing in the world to me. I don't know what to say about the Tampa Bay Lightning right now, because they had the Kucherov injury, and then they had Stamkos yesterday, right?
Upper body.
Yeah, and Stamkos was in lower body yesterday, and they're not off to a great start anyways. But
I haven't seen it from Vasilevsky yet.
No. And they traded their backup, who did really, really well last year, in Louis Domingue, to the Devils.
I'm not sure if Curtis McElhinney's really a downgrade on paper, but it's sort of just the thought. He did nothing wrong. Vasilevsky is going to start 60-plus games anyway. It's just one of those things that fixing nothing, getting nothing.
Taking nothing away from Curtis McElhinney, because he's been one of the most consistent backup goalies. He was really good on the Leafs. He was really good on the Carolina Hurricanes. And now, I mean, I haven't looked at his stats. I would assume he's doing just as well in Tampa Bay, but he hasn't had the opportunity to play like he has in Carolina, because they had the combination of him and James Reimer, I believe. Or was it him and Peter Mrazek? I forget who it was, but they had a combination going.
It was a mix. I think there was injuries.
It might have been, all three of them, because McElhinney was out for a bit and Reimer was too. But all 3 of them got going, and then they went on their massive run last year. And that's just
that's really a problem you want to face.
Yeah,
if
you always
feel
want
confident throwing one of 3 guys at any point in your net. That's amazing.
You always want to have players that make it difficult for the coaching staff to bench them. And certain teams, good teams over the years, have done that. And I mean, it's not fun for the coaches, but that's what you want to do. You want to have all guys clicking on at once and then let someone else worry about the problem.
Yep. It's not like we're playing gym class dodgeball where everyone needs to play. It's about winning. It's the NHL.
Yeah. It's a business, as they say.
It's a business, that's
It's a tough thing, but it's a business. Speaking of sports being a business, we had this, right after we went off air last week recording the podcast, the Thursday night football game between the Browns and the Steelers got ugly, and there was some business that needed to be solved there. For those who don't know, I mean, all of you probably do, but Myles Garrett ripped the helmet off of Mason Rudolph, the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback.
And whacked him in the head with it.
Larry Ogunjobi came and got involved, and Maurkice Pouncey. Everyone got suspended. Well, not Rudolph, but the 3 main guys got suspended.
And both teams fined.
Both teams fined $250,000, I believe. Garrett's out indefinitely. The regular season, the playoffs. Well, they're not making the playoffs, but probably a bit of next year. Ogunjobi got 1 game, so I believe he'll serve that this week.
I think he got off pretty easy with 1 game. I mean,
yeah, you blindside someone like that. If you do it during a play, it's just like a 15-yard penalty.
It wasn't just a shove. It had a little run up to it.
It had some oof to it. And then Maurkice Pouncey, the Pittsburgh Steelers player, originally got suspended 3 games, appealed it. Got it brought down to 2, so he'll start serving that this week when they play it. But he's a good player, and they'll miss him because the Steelers are fighting. They're fighting for a playoff spot. Other than that, last week in the NFL, just a couple. The Bills won again. They're still pushing for their playoff hopes. They beat the Dolphins. Not really a surprise there. The Patriots won again. Not a whole lot of weird stuff going on, which I guess is probably good. But yeah, that Cleveland Pittsburgh brawl
just took over the headlines.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say too much about that. But Garrett, that was insane. He's one of the best players in the league. The first overall pick a couple years ago.
And the worst thing about it is there's 8 seconds left. 8 seconds won't decide that game.
Yeah, 8 seconds.
Whether he attacks him walks off the field, runs down the tunnel. Those 8 seconds, it didn't matter.
And Cleveland was up big in that game. They were like 16 or something too, right? Like you just gotta.
It's just a really brain dead play.
It doesn't matter how much you hate someone. You can't do that. You can't do that if there's 15 minutes left in the game.
I think in the post game conference with OBJ and Landry, I think they said it best, and it was just 3 words, and it can't happen. And
yeah, Baker Mayfield said that too. Like he said right out of the gate that he's going to get suspended. I mean, we all knew he was going to get suspended. We didn't know for how long. But that was extreme, and I think it was called for because you can't do that to anybody in any sport, or I mean outside of sports too. It's just insane to me. I think Cleveland's playoff hopes are now done because you can't lose Myles Garrett.
They have the Dolphins this week, but I think this will be the last glimpse of victory they might see.
Yeah. I mean, even the morale, right? Like, only the Cleveland Browns...
It kills the vibe, it kills the defense, which kills the offense, and...
Only the Cleveland Browns can win a big Thursday night football game on national TV and then still feel like the losers afterwards.
Yeah.
That's Freddie Kitchens for you. I mean, it wasn't his fault, but it just follows him wherever he goes this year. And it's a mess. It's a mess. Everyone had really high hopes for them, calling them Super Bowl contenders in the offseason. I could see it, but Landry has just never clicked with me as a big wide receiver. He makes a lot of catches.
I think
he can run after the catch. He's not a superstar.
I think they brought in OBJ with this whole intent, but he's not getting enough targets.
And Baker Mayfield is something else.
He just has to be better.
I don't want to say he's the second coming of Johnny Manziel, but it's getting really close. I think. I mean, he's not crazy like Manziel, but the interceptions, the fumbling, the dumbass forward passes have to stop.
Speaking of interceptions, I don't know if you've looked, but Jameis Winston of the Buccaneers.
I did look after we recorded that last week.
Almost even amount of interceptions as touchdowns. It's just insane.
I believe it was 17 touchdowns, 15 or 14 interceptions. It was insane.
Crazy.
I don't even know who was Ryan Griffin the back. I don't know who the backup on that team is. No, I think Ryan Griffin went to the
I don't know, but
Texans.
I don't know who the backup is, but the sad thing is that I don't know if their backup's going to get much better than
No, but it's hard to
You'd think it's hard to get worse than a +2 touchdown to interception ratio, but I don't know.
If only there was a quarterback that just had his showcase that, is 32 and looked really good.
Yeah.
That could, bring a spark
to a lot of teams.
Yeah. For those who don't know, we were talking about Colin Kaepernick, who had a showcase last week and last Saturday.
In Atlanta.
They planned it at the Falcons training facility. He said, "No thanks, I want cameras there," and the Falcons wouldn't let cameras and the media be brought in. So he went off to do his own thing. Apparently, it looked really good. Hasn't been signed yet. I don't think he will be signed. But I appreciate what he's trying to do. I mean, the fact of the matter is he's 32 now, I believe.
I think it's good for the...
He's 3 years removed from the league. I love the guy. I want him to play again. But I don't think it's plausible at this point.
I don't know if removing yourself from a sport and coming back without... It's not that he's not fit, but he's not getting the everyday cardio, everyday getting pushed by his teammates, all that stuff.
No, and to be clear, we're not saying that he removed himself, I don't think. That didn't happen. It was...
No, I just mean removed himself from football activities.
Yes, he wasn't there for a while. Whether it was his fault or not, I don't believe it was. But yeah, he went off on his own for a little bit. Good on him, but I don't think there's a real legitimate chance that he comes back into the league. And it's a tough situation for everyone involved because there's a lot of bad backup quarterbacks that I believe he would automatically be better than.
Yes. But
it's the media and attention that he brings to it, and just not a lot of people like that.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess that's kind of a fair assessment, but you gotta look at the big picture here. And I think if all these owners preach, we want to win games. Okay, but starting Brian Hoyer isn't gonna win you games.
Yeah,
it's just insane.
It's just stubbornness. Every coach says they want to win because what else are you gonna say? But it's what you believe and the actions you take, and it's just not there with some guys.
Last week was also Nick Foles' first game back from injury. The benching
of Gardner Minshew
the second. Foles started off well. He had a touchdown in his first or second drive. I believe it was first. He looked pretty good. Then he looked like crap the rest of the game. Overpay. I mean, in Jacksonville. What do I know? But you had a good thing going with Gardner Minshew. Did he win all the games? No, he didn't. But
Do you
you're
expect
not
that from the Jaguars? No.
you're not
you
making
don't.
the playoffs anyways. I mean, you pay Nick Foles however much, 80 something million for over the next few years. So I guess you have to play him. But if you're going with the philosophy of start the better guy, halfway through that game, he looked terrible. And
Yeah, and nothing's stopping them from subbing him right out.
no, and it was the same thing that the Dolphins were doing with Josh Rosen, although he was much younger. You see someone's doing poorly, you don't bench him because you don't like him. You bench him to give him a breather, and you
Yeah.
let someone else take over and see if
Yeah.
you can get some momentum
I mean,
going.
it's hard as a player to not see it as a negative, obviously, but a lot of times coaches are doing it as a positive for not only the player but the team.
And coming off an injury too, Gardner Minshew is much more athletic than Nick Foles. I'm not saying Gardner Minshew should start all the rest of the games
Oh,
and
no,
play
no, no,
100% of the minutes
But
and all the snaps.
It's
but you got to
showing the
mix them
game's
in.
getting more athletic.
It-
Guys like Watson, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, all these guys who run, they're coming up the ring.
And it's a very interesting philosophy in the NFL because you have your starting quarterback, and he's your starting quarterback basically 100% of the time, unless an injury or something occurs, or you have someone in New Orleans like Taysom Hill who can jump around and be a wide receiver, be a tight end, weird things like that. In the CFL, they got guys, special quarterbacks for like, I know it's a totally different league and it's totally different rules and all that, but they got these athletic guys coming out of university and colleges from the U.S. and Canada who are specifically designed as run quarterbacks. Like if it's a third and one,
I know, it's crazy.
you take out someone like, let's say Tom Brady, for example, who's 40 whatever he is.
Yeah.
You take him out. If you put in a guy like Taysom Hill, for example, on a third and one or a fourth and one, you just have, and you're going for it, you just have that much more opportunity because you have a young athletic guy instead of some old guy. And that's what I really like about the CFL. It's a totally different league, but you got guys like that are athletic, can make plays like that, and it's just a totally different philosophy. And speaking of the CFL, the Grey Cup happening this weekend. The Hamilton Tiger Cats going up against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Evans going up against Chris Strevler. That should be a good game in Calgary this Sunday, I believe. This Sunday.
And will
game.
he put his pants on?
Yeah,
That's the question of the weekend.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers fan who's made headlines for not wearing pants
Can
and
we
a bet
even
that he made.
consider him a super fan?
I don't know what I.
At this point, it's just keeping his promise, I guess.
Yeah,
Stupidity?
following in on a bet. For those who don't know, in 2001, he made a bet that he would not wear a pair of pants again until the Winnipeg Blue Bombers won another Grey Cup. And 18 years have come and gone.
And that
The
has
Blue
not
Bombers
happened.
have not won anything. They've come close a couple times. They've not won anything. They've had a few good teams. He still hasn't put on a pair of pants. And this Sunday may be a big party for him and his wife and his entire family that
The
he'll finally
whole
slip into a pair of
community.
jeans or something. And
I can't imagine that being settling for anyone in the community watching just some dude walking around in negative 35, negative 40 Manitoba in the middle of February. It's crazy.
Yeah, if nothing else, he probably would make his wife do most of the grocery shopping and errands. What do I know? But it's an interesting story. My Rough Riders got eliminated last weekend. That was unfortunate, so I don't really care who wins, but it should be a good game nonetheless.
Yeah.
It's always a fantastic atmosphere in Calgary. The Stampeders have a great stadium there, and I think it'll be really good. So they're going up against the NFL, though, and that's always a tough thing. Like, ratings are always a tough thing in sports.
Yep.
And
And I think
that's
ratings
that.
are just unfairly put out a lot of the time.
No, it's totally...
Just
a
based
lot of
on-
it is biased when
Yeah.
it comes to television, sports, TV shows, movies. A lot of it's messed up that way. So that's one more final game for the CFL, and then they call it quits. One league, big league, done after that. It's Houston Astros thing.
Yeah, so basically a lot more I think is going to come out in the next few days as they investigate not only the 2017 World Series, but I think they also mentioned they're going to investigate 2018 and 2019.
It's just a gong show in Houston. Coming out
looks
at
bad
this
on
time.
the league, and it looks bad on a team that I think, take away whatever signs they were stealing, they're still World Series contenders.
They
And
were the peak
I don't
ideal
know.
of an MLB franchise
Yeah.
2 months ago. 2 months ago. Then they went to the World Series. Their assistant GM, Brent Tobin, says some stuff. He's fired. Cole says, I'm not an employee of the team 10 minutes after the game's over, the final game of the World Series.
It's
Unraveled really
unraveling,
quick.
yeah, that's right.
And I don't know what I would say if I was a sports fan in general. But if I was an Astros fan, it's a tough thing to back up your team on this.
Yeah, because no one wants to support that, but they also know that it's a good team.
Yeah, it's a good team regardless. But
as well as if you're a Dodgers fan, what do you say? I mean, you can't make an excuse, but when you look at the home and road splits, like guys like Altuve hitting
it's insane.
300 points higher at home, if you take away some of those if you take away 300 points worth of Altuve hits, and not even just him, basically everyone I think except for Gurriel had
Reddick,
jacked up splits.
Springer,
It's like
Bregman,
if you
name
take
it. Chirinos.
If you take away those points from all their averages and you calculate it and you look at how many runs are deducted, like I don't remember the Astros necessarily blowing the Dodgers out of any of those games. And as a Dodgers fan, you don't want to make that as an excuse, obviously.
No, for sure. You can't say that. You can't use it as an excuse. But
as a sports fan, all you can do is sit there and say, what if?
You can put an asterisk next to the Houston Astros 2017 World Series win. Yeah. That's for sure. And then whatever comes out of this, write that up. Because they're going to win. They won it. Maybe not fair and square, but they won it.
They won it.
Regardless.
It's like the same thing as Pete Rose. There's an asterisk there. He still got the hits.
No, yeah, it's
a whole other issue, obviously, but same sort of.
It's very rare that things like this come up in major sports. I mean, the Patriots have had a couple over the last few years, last half decade or even decade, I guess. But
and it's not so much just the sign stealing. I mean, we know the Red Sox and Yankees have been sort of linked to that sort of stuff over the last few years.
I mean, the Jays
the fact that it's the World Series, I think that's what's obviously bringing this out.
The Jays had the infamous man in white in center field, however long ago that was. And that, obviously, whoever was running the team at that time came out and said, this is stupid, this isn't happening, you guys are just looking for things. And nothing came of it. But
the only thing that came from it was zooming in on Yunel Escobar's eye black.
Yeah, and we're bringing it back to the bad old days of the Toronto Blue Jays, and not something we really want to get into, not on that team. A lot of stuff to say about this team later on. But yeah, you got to wonder if, let's say, take like the Baltimore Orioles tried this stunt. What the Astros did, they tried it, and they used it for their games, and how they won 45, 46 games. It wouldn't be that big of a bump up, but I would wonder if there would be such media scrutiny if a team like the Orioles did it and failed.
Yeah.
Just because they're so poorly constructed, nobody can help them anyways.
Yeah. I don't even know if that would help them.
No,
I mean, it's one thing to know a 97-mile-an-hour fastball is coming. It's another thing to actually hit it.
No, but Houston, and I mean LA for that example, and New York and Boston too, they're big sports markets. They're big baseball markets. Yeah. Baltimore was, a few years ago, a little bit, but not to that extent, and certainly they're not right now. They're the worst team, one of the worst teams in the league right now. And I would just wonder what the difference would be, what people would be saying about them as opposed to what's obviously going on in Houston. I just find the whole thing fascinating. There's not much you can do. You can take away a couple draft picks. You can fine them. But it's like a tough situation because there's not a whole lot that can be done.
It's not like you can replay the 2017 World Series. It's come and gone. The teams have changed. It's just moved on.
No, every LA Dodger fan that says they should be gifted the World Series or it should be replayed is just idiotic on a level that I can't comprehend because those players it would never happen anyways, but there's so many reasons why it wouldn't happen. Yep. And all it takes is a little bit of common sense to think that through.
And even think, I mean, Dodgers fans who think that clearly have an issue with it, but imagine if with whatever technology and whatever anything possible they were to replay that and the Dodgers won, it would just be an absolute gong show.
Oh, it would be a garbage fire in the MLB. They'd never get over it.
It would be awful for the league. It would be
brutal.
Who cares about the Astros fans even at this point? It's just awful for the league.
Yeah, it's a bad situation. It's not going to be resolved anytime soon, I don't think. I mean, I hope so, but
I mean, they might get some intel, whatever they say they're gathering right now, but it's not going to change anything.
Yeah. Sticking with the theme of Major League Baseball, couple interesting signings. Free agency has been relatively slow to this point. I don't think anybody expected anything different.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really expects anything till sort of after the holidays. That's when it really ramps up.
Yeah, recently Chris Martin, 2 years, $14 million, back to the Braves. The Braves are single-handedly scooping up the entire reliever pool, really.
Yeah.
I mean, who's left?
Two up,
Daniel
two down,
Hudson,
really.
Dallin Betances, a few guys, but not the big names. Chris Martin isn't a big name, but he put up some great numbers last year.
Did. And to compliment with the lefty Will Smith, I think it's two great
For
additions.
sure. That bullpen with all those guys, Max
And they were using
Fried.
Max Fried as the long man last year. Yeah,
Max
I really like
Fried.
that.
It's insane. I think the Braves are going to have a good team.
I think Luke Jackson has a really big
Jackson
ceiling.
too. He was a really.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a real 5 pick or if it was just a waiver wire claim off the Texas Rangers.
Claim.
That was really good. That's what happens when you claim these guys and you give them a shot.
Yeah,
hint, Toronto.
The worst thing that can happen is you suck for 3 games and you get let off. It's almost a win-win.
Yeah, Yasmani Grandal, 4 years, $73 million to the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah,
that's a good deal.
That sort of came to me as a surprise.
A bit of a surprise, but Chicago's a good young team.
I was expecting him to go to the AL. Just he's sort of getting older and like he's looking more and more like a DH.
Yeah, but he's still a very, very good hitter.
Not expecting the White Sox.
Very, very good hitter. But they have a couple guys in the minors that are catchers and young that they can call up.
Yeah.
Following that right up, they signed Jose Abreu to a 3-year, $50 million deal.
Yeah, the qualifying offer.
Abreu, yeah, so he got the qualifying offer, and then they revamped his deal. Yeah, I think that's a good deal as well. I was wondering at the time when we recorded the last podcast, why was he taking that qualifying offer at $17.18 million? But after that, he's getting older. You're getting older. The market isn't changing whether you're good or not. So that was a good move.
And I think actually Abreu is sort of one of the overlooked players in the league.
He was one of the
He's always hit home runs. He's always driven in guys. There's no reason why it'll
25 or 30 plus, 85 plus RBIs. Yeah. He was a good
and a decent average.
A decent first baseman. The White Sox got a good player.
Yeah.
The Mariners, I don't know if you saw this, made a really interesting move that I liked today. They inked the 56th ranked overall prospect in baseball, Evan White, first round pick from 2017, to a 6-year deal for $24 million with 3 club options that can make the deal up to $55 million. And it's the first time in Major League Baseball history that a deal like this has been inked out to a player who has not played above Double-A. I don't believe he has.
I heard the news, but I didn't know the logistics behind the deal.
No, so he's a great defender, a great hitter. He's hit everywhere he went. Top pick. Very projectable. He's a good young guy. And 6 years, $24 million. It's
a bargain.
It is a bargain. It's a similar deal to Scott Kingery got when he was in the minors with the Phillies, although he wasn't in Double-A at the time.
And he showed spots of brightness.
Yeah, it's very comparable to all those years ago when the Astros came out of nowhere and they signed John Singleton, who was one of their top prospects at the time, to this super, what seemed like a super good deal for this young guy who was a top prospect. He never panned out. I mean, we all know that because he's not on Houston, or I don't think he's in the major leagues anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it. It's an interesting deal. The Mariners are locking up their young guys. They got Evan White, who's going to come up next season, I would imagine, because he has this deal now. Kyle Lewis was there a bit last year.
Yeah, they got J.P. Crawford as well.
J.P. Crawford in the Gene Segura trade last offseason.
They still have Mitch Haniger. I'm not sure how long that'll last, but
Haniger, Domingo Santana. They got a young. I don't know about their pitching because their pitching is extremely sketchy.
Yeah.
Roenis Elias last year seemed to be a good. I thought he was a good closer. They bumped him out of that role near the end, but he was a good closer. It's a weird team.
Kikuchi showed signs.
Kikuchi, who came over last year, was his first year after signing with the Mariners coming out of Japan.
It wasn't a good season. It wasn't really a bad season. I mean,
no, they were in it at the beginning,
with
right?
Transition like that, I'm not sure how much you can really expect from a guy like that.
No.
I mean, Tanaka was a whole other thing because he didn't lose in Japan. I think he went 24-0 or whatever, and it's just...
Yeah, that was an abnormality, and that's never, ever going to happen again.
Yeah.
I don't think. But the Mariners are an interesting team. I mean, they're behind the Angels now. They're behind Oakland, who is a really good team. They're behind Houston still. Texas, I don't know what they're going to do if they sign someone like Donaldson or Rendon.
Texas season is laying in the free agent pool.
Yeah, like if you get like seasons out of Lance Lynn like you did in last year,
and
next year. Mike Minor, who at one
deal.
point they were 1-2 in leading War for Baseball reference last year. I think they ended pretty high too. Guys like that out of nowhere, they could be an interesting team. The entire AL West, I think, is going to be good. The 40-man roster crunch that happens, everyone's favorite 40-man roster crunch, happened a couple days ago. Big mess of players that were DFA'd, that were sent down. A couple trades, just to point out, very small ones. The Brewers got Mark Matias, an infielder from the Cleveland Indians, who was once one of their top 30 prospects. He's kind of anchored off a bit. The Indians got a catcher named Andres Melendez in return. And the one I thought was interesting was the Reds got Jose De Leon from the Rays for cash and a player to be named later.
Yeah.
The Rays making a couple of moves. But Jose De Leon, he's been an interesting guy the last couple of years. I believe he was originally a LA Dodger top prospect. It was him and Urias out there.
Yeah.
Urias kind of blossomed a little bit and then settled off. De Leon never got his feet. Went to the Rays, still a top prospect because he's still very young. Didn't get much of a chance because the Rays have a great pitching setup where they are. So they shipped him to the Reds. He's going to get playing time next year, I think. He's a top prospect. You're not going to have guys like Jackson Stevens go out there every fifth day.
No, and the Reds have been linked to tons of pitching rumors. They've been linked to Wheeler. I think Castillo's here to stay for the long haul.
Castillo, I believe he has a contract over the next
Trevor
couple
Bauer
years.
didn't look too great last year,
but you
a
have
move
Bauer,
in the middle of the season.
Sonny Gray.
Yeah,
Sonny Gray.
I think a move in the middle of the season
can
influence somebody. I think a fresh season for Bauer might show definitely improved stats.
If they sign Zach Wheeler, I believe they're going to be one of the favorites for the wild card. Because you can't. That's a 4-man rotation. That's insane. If they live up to their potential, and then again, if you have a guy like Jose De Leon,
that's sort of that.
Anyway, Dave Sclafani.
If they sign Wheeler, that reminds me exactly of the approach the Nationals took. They already had Scherzer, Strasburg, and they bring in Corbin last year.
Yeah, and you make
you complement that with like some good young hitters. Suarez, insane amount of home runs last year.
Yeah, you got guys like Jesse Winker
hitting home runs with like in his sleep.
Yeah,
young guys like that.
All you just need is from Joey Votto not to have the season he had last year, and I don't think. People say he's old and he's leveling off. I don't think he's going to put up a season like he did last year because that was insane. Nobody drops off that quickly.
Only go up.
Oh yeah. Jacoby Ellsbury got released by the Yankees.
That's a lot of money for letting somebody sit on your couch.
Well, that's interesting because today there were press releases stating that the Yankees do not plan on paying him his money for the reason being that he's been oft injured. He hasn't played really since 2017. But apparently, when he got his medical diagnosis of all his injuries, he was using not a team-oriented doctor. So he went out on his own, and that doctor diagnosed him. And it's kind of a messed up situation because he was supposed to get, $20 million or something over the next couple of years? $21 million. And now the Yankees are saying, no, we're not going to pay that to you because you went off on your own when this happened, and you did it yourself.
It's not even the fact that he went to a different doctor. It's more just sort of a betrayal of the organization.
No, and I'm not going to make a comment on it really because I don't know the full details of it. It's still coming out, but I believe what also said was Jacoby Ellsbury and his team are kind of leaning towards getting involved and maybe a little bit of legal action here because Ellsbury is well off anyways, but $21
million is a lot to leave on the table.
A lot to leave on the table, and the Yankees have that money to dish out.
They have more money
That's
than
pennies
God.
on the dollar to any other team, and that's a weird situation. Just running through a couple other guys that were DFAs that may get, although most of them will get minor league deals. Some of them might get claimed. Duffy from Tampa Bay, Wei-Yin Chen from Miami, Jarrell Cotton, who I like. He's 26, I believe, on Oakland. That's weird because he got injured. He got taken off the 40-man, went to AAA, pitched a bit, got injured again, re-added to the 40-man. Didn't really pan out, but he's still young. Nick Goody, who had like a 3.46 ERA, I believe, in Cleveland.
Being part of Cleveland's playoff runs.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of weird. He's one of the guys that I'll mention in a little bit that I think the Jays should make a run after. Nick Martini, San Diego. C.D. Pelham, who was just a guy in Texas who never really got a shot, DFA'd. The ex-Blue Jay prospect, Taylor Guerreri, who was in Buffalo the last couple of years before he got released, is now DFA'd. Guys out of Kansas City nobody really cares about. Shane Green, who is a top 30 Blue Jays prospect, he was dealt in the Dominic Leone deal to St. Louis. Dominic Leone, now DFA'd by St. Louis. Justin Schaefer, DFA'd by Toronto.
Yeah, really don't agree with that.
I'll get into that in a bit. I don't think that's a good move at all. You ship through these relievers. You don't give them a chance. I know it's a business and they say that and whatever, but you feel for some of these guys because Schaefer came up. He was put in a tough situation. The Jays weren't. He wasn't there for the good years.
3.5 ERA.
And you're. It's messed up.
Out of an already depleted bullpen, on a team where
you have Ken Giles and really nobody else.
Yeah.
Schaefer, who cares if he's not very good? He's good enough to be. I guarantee he'll be in the majors somewhere next year. At least a shot of it. Dominic Leone, as I mentioned, ex-Blue Jay, had a really good year. Sent to St. Louis, gave up a ton of home runs. He's gone.
Yeah, he was not the same.
He wasn't the same. Drew Gagnon, out of the New York Mets, just another guy. And Daniel Palka, who was a top 30 guy for the last couple of years for the White Sox, he got he was collateral damage for I believe it was the Yasmani Grandal deal. They got Grandal and they added him, and they're like, see a Palka. But he's an interesting player.
I think he's sort of been overlooked. Engel hasn't really panned out yet, but I think Engel was. I think it came down to more just who they liked more, and whether he's better, whether he's not. It's just a bias.
And by no means am I saying Palka's going to turn out to be an all-star. Far from it. But he's another guy, similar to, as I mentioned before, Nick Martini, guys that have bounced around that haven't had a real shot.
For sure. He'll play a quality outfield and
last year
250 plus.
Last year I was saying this about Corey Spangenberg. It's guys like that. Like Spangenberg has he went to San Francisco, right? And he did well last year. Not an all-star, but he's a good solid player. So that's around Major League Baseball recently. The Blue Jays in particular, because we're a Toronto podcast, so why not talk about them? Aside from the notable Major League free agents, like Justin Smoke, etc. leaving, they had 18 minor league guys waived. They're gone. See you later. Good luck. A bunch of pitchers. Some of them nobody really knows. Josh Almonte. John Axford. He was injured last year. He's gone. Danny Barnes. He had a really good run with the Blue Jays' good teams. Came up as a rookie.
That was one of his problems, was that he had runs and he didn't have seasons.
No, yeah. And he was in entire season in Buffalo last year when he wasn't injured. Socrates Brito, the infamous 056 average in Toronto.
Yeah.
He ain't coming back. Patrick Kivlahan, he would be one of the few guys I would say out in the minor leagues. Re-sign him. I mean, there's tons. There's like 500 plus minor league free agents.
Hits home runs.
And he's a good fill-in guy because if Smoke's gone, you don't know about Rowdy Tellez. You're rebuilding.
I think that's one of the overlooked holes of the Blue Jays lineup is they don't really have a first baseman.
Yeah, ever since Edwin left.
Yeah.
It's kind of been a weird rotating. Smoke was a mainstay. He had a very good, very nice career in Toronto. But now that he's gone, I mean, Tellez, I don't know what to make of him yet. Jordan Patterson, they claimed off waivers from Colorado a couple years. Last year, he's gone. And the interesting one to me, Dalton Pompey, his time's finally up. Never panned out.
Oh, yes.
Ran the bases well. I don't know what to say about him. He
Couldn't
never
get on the bases to run them well.
Yeah,
always hurt.
He's a Billy Hamilton type player. Not that bad of a hitter because he's had spells where he's looked like he could be good, but never panned out.
Couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah, his brother actually got drafted recently, Tristan Pompey, who's Canadian too, obviously, by the Miami Marlins. Hopefully he works out better than his brother.
Looking at that organization, he's gonna get a chance.
Anybody in the Marlins, like half the guys that I listed earlier, that were DFA'd. I mean, Wei and Shen got paid a crap load of money for no apparent goddamn reason. But half these like young guys, like Palka, Miami could claim him. Schaefer, Miami could claim him. Montana DuRappo, who I like, they could claim him. Guys like Duffy and Shen and even Nick Goody. I mean, Nick Goody's good, but you just don't need him on a rebuilding team.
Nick Goody's one of those sort of older guys. It's just
Greg Bird.
Bring him in, get him to help.
Take a flyer on him. See if he pans out. I mean, they took a flyer. Here's another ex-Yankee top prospect first baseman, Garrett Cooper.
Yeah.
He's now in Miami. But guys like that, you got 500 plus minor league free agents, more every day with waivers and releases and DFAs, because guys are going to sign and then you're going to have to free up space and all that. So that's a lot. Getting into the Blue Jays, I want to get into the Blue Jays a little bit because they've done nothing so far in the offseason. I mean, no one really. They got a bunch of young guys, obviously. A couple weird things have happened. Like, news has come out where they're thinking they might trade one of their young catchers for somebody. They were in on Grandal for a bit. Obviously, that's no longer the case. Gurriel was in the news for wanting to get moved for an arm. Didn't understand that. They made a trade for Chase Anderson, which I like.
I think that's a strong move for them.
I should know who they sent back in. Chad Spanberger, who I liked. Right. He was a first baseman in the minors. Wasn't going to come up, but so that they got a decent rotation. But it's an interesting team build because you got all these young guys who are going to take over. You got this new head coach Montoya that you brought in last year, and a new kind of philosophy of playing the game.
I think I can describe their lineup as basically just clustered. You look at their infield, you go, ooh. You see their catchers, and you're like, eh. You see their outfield, and you go, eh. Their starting pitchers, and then their bullpen's just. Their
bullpen
nothing.
Is god awful, to be quite honest with you. Ken Giles is one of the best closers in the game, but when you have nobody else, and when you have your workhorse Tim Meza go down last year on lefty, and you're left with no lefties. I don't get it.
And a closer's supposed to close the game you're winning.
I don't get it.
With their bullpen, they can't carry leads to him.
You didn't move him at the deadline. You moved Hudson. Great. For a minor leaguer from the Nationals. Great. Everyone liked Hudson. I'm not saying that people don't like Ken Giles, but Hudson was a fan favorite. He came here. He said he liked it here. He's a veteran guy. He's by no means is he washed up, but he's a veteran guy. He's older. And he liked it here.
But
we ship him off.
Also
and not Giles. I don't get
it. I see why teams were interested. I don't agree with what the Jays sent, but I don't think holding him would have also necessarily been the right situation.
I don't. But what I would have preferred is you move Giles instead. Yes, Giles was injured at the deadline. Yes, people were scared off. Teams were scared off because of his injury. I forget what it was.
I think it was elbow.
But elbow related, and it was a little bit of a stress thing, I think. But just moves like that drive me nuts. And with the bullpen that they have, with the team that they have in general, they're a bad team still. Even with, if Shoemaker comes back and performs top level, if Anderson goes back to his 2017 and 2016 starts and performs top level, it's a bad team, especially pitching-wise and especially bullpen-wise, which is why I don't think it's the end of the world if they take just flyers on a couple of these guys. Sign minor league guys that have had done well. The Mets, they just signed Chasen Shreve to a minor league deal. He's a lefty. He's been around the Yankees,
he's been
St.
there,
Louis.
And he's done it. And
he's done it. He's pitched in the playoffs, I believe, before. He's had a good run. You got to get guys that have had good runs before. One of them will pan out. Hudson panned out. He was a freaking waiver claim. The Angels didn't like him. The Jays said, okay, he was great. He had a rough couple weeks because he was just added to the roster after they returned to Toronto from Montreal. Yep. And it's, why not? You have nothing to lose. You have no money on the books.
If you pick up waivers or flyers on even 2, 3, 4 of those guys, one of them's gonna pan out. And maybe not even pan out as in. I don't mean pan out as in being an all-star. I just mean
a solid 4 or 5 guy. A solid bullpen.
Gives you more than you expect. He's panned out.
You're telling me that the Blue Jays couldn't give up cash and a player to be named later for Jose De Leon, an ex-top prospect? Give him a shot. You're telling me they're not going to claim guys like Jarrell Cotton and Durapo, who I keep mentioning because I like, or even Pelham, or guys like that you give a shot. Maybe they won't work out. Maybe you get 8 guys and 7 of them suck. Fine. That one guy, you're signing them for pennies on the dollar. You're going to sign him for what? $500,000 in a minor league and a spring training invite?
Yeah.
Or guys like C.D. Pelham, who hasn't seen the majors, I don't believe yet. You're telling me if you say, okay, minor league contract, but $550K and a spring training invite, and we'll give you a legitimate shot. I don't see the problem with that.
And what's the worst thing that happens? They have a shitty spring training, and they just say see ya.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
And I know I'm diving into minor league stuff. I like doing that sort of thing because it's interesting. Everyone knows the majors. If you think you do, you probably do. But the minors are interesting. Like, I have a list here of guys just that are minor league free agents that there's no downside to getting. Braden Shipley, Arizona, top guy, he's gone. Jason Hirsch, Atlanta, ex-top pitcher, top prospect pitcher, he's gone. This guy from Boston, Trey Ball, 2015, I believe. Early round pick, signed as a pitcher, sucked. They converted him to the outfield. It's an interesting something. It draws a little bit of media to frickin' Clearwater.
And that whole thing is
or
just
Dunedin, Bluefield.
pitchers to outfielders are just a whole interesting
Yeah,
story.
it's like, who cares if he sucks? It's media attention. Justin Nicolino, top guy back in the days of Syndergaard, back in those days with the Blue Jays, Sanchez, all those guys in Vancouver. Great pitcher, didn't work out. Give him a shot. Jamie Schultz, ex-Rays top guy. He went to LA. He did decently, but they had to let him go for whatever reason. Give him a shot. Cole Stewart, Minnesota. Top prospect at a point. Didn't pan out. Trey McNutt. Love the guy's name, one.
Yeah,
Great name. But he's much older. I think he's 28 or 27 now. But in like 2009, 2010, I want to say around there. The Cubs, he was a top Cubs guy, and he bounced around. He was in Oakland for tripling last year. Didn't look awful, didn't look great. Dietrich Enns, another great name. San Diego, I believe he's more of a reliever, but guys like this that you give a shot. Matt Davidson, as a pitcher.
Yep.
Who he's had his moments. He was a home runner strikeout guy on the White Sox a couple years ago. Yeah. He was a good guy. He had a bunch of home runs. They let him go. Texas picked him up, and I think he worked as both in AAA and AA. I think a little bit of Round Rock too, but just another interesting guy. Like, obviously, do I think any of these guys are going to be good major leaguers next year if they do get picked up? No. Braden Shipley maybe, because he's been up and down a bit. Cole Stewart maybe.
There's good players already on the team. That's not the goal of these guys. It's just someone to help out, just someone to ease innings off of the guys you want later in the season. You're telling me
like Jason Hirsch as a long man or even a fifth starter. And these are guys that, I mean, you diehard baseball fans will know these guys.
Deep, yeah.
But names that have popped up, popped down, even guys they've released, like Moramondo Dermody, who I have a soft spot for. But, like, you don't even have to look at the minors. Like, there are guys all around. Waiver claims. Other countries. Japan, who I have 3 guys written down for. Only one of them is actually ethnically Japanese. Alex Guerrero. He was, when the Dodgers were 13, 14, 12, those top teams, he was bouncing around there, didn't do very well. Went to Japan, hit a bunch of home runs. I think he had like 34 in his first year, and then he leveled off with 16, and then he came back with 25 last year. He's an infielder now, and an outfielder, so he's a utility guy. And
it wouldn't be the first time we've seen success.
No, absolutely not.
Guys like Eric Dames. There's success stories coming back from Japan.
It's tough like that. And then like the Mariners did it last year with Kikuchi and then Tanaka, obviously. And I mean, he hasn't even said he wants to come here yet. But a guy from who played in Japan, who I like, Kodai Senga. I mean, obviously, MLB scouts have said, okay, yes, he looks like he could be good, and he's not here for a reason, right? Because he doesn't want to be, I'm sure. Yeah. He has no interest right now, but he's a guy, like this year, Satsugo, he's a first baseman, I think? He's a guy, first baseman, fill a spot. You can try it. Weird one. In 2018, the Braves had the 8th overall pick. They drafted Carter Stewart Jr., he had an injury. They didn't want to pay him his full slot bonus. Yeah. He told him to F off. He went off to Japan, pitched very, very well in Japan, and now he's 20. That's a whole separate thing because he's going to want to spend time there, and obviously he's going to want to come back to the majors.
You have to develop.
But for the other two, like Senga and Guerrero, bribe him a little bit. And I hate to use that word because, I mean, obviously that means that they're only looking at money.
And I don't even know if it's really a bribe. I mean, guys are overpaid every single day. It's a business. Give him a shot. Miles Michaelis did that for St. Louis. Came back, I wanted to say a 2-year deal. Back and he had crazy amount of wins.
Cy Young, in the running for Cy Young. He flatlined a bit last year. But he's a good 3 guy. Yeah. Like, there are guys out there if you look for them. And the minors, waiver claims, whatever. And this garbage that the front office in Toronto spews year after year. Which is, we have money, we're going to go do this, that, and the other. You're DFAing guys like Justin Schaefer who have a 3.50 whatever the hell ERA.
Yeah.
You're not.
You have to build around these guys they want to sign who they haven't shown their fans they're willing to.
And it's early. It's early in free agency, I know, but based off of the years prior, I don't think they're going to go after any of these guys. And these are just my guys that I've noticed and think might be good. But even other guys like random offshoot relievers that have been, good at some point and then they've lost it. Leon.
Yep.
Why not bring him back? He's a ex-major. Like, he pitched in Toronto. He loved it here. He was the Daniel Hudson before the Daniel Hudson was a big thing, right? He had a great year. We got Grichuk. That was in the Grichuk deal where it was more than one player, but it's things like that drive me nuts. And they screw around with, and I'm sure all teams do it. I'm focusing on Toronto because I live in Toronto and follow the Jays. I'm sure all teams do it. They screw around with the minor league system. You have guys that are up for a little bit of time, especially relievers, because they swap in and out so much.
Basically every day.
Basically every day, and it's a problem. Do I know how to solve it? No, I'm not paid to. I'm a guy that watches sports and sees all this happening. But you have guys, relievers. Meza was for a bit. He was up and down. Dermody, who I like, was up and down. Schaefer was up and down. Tens of other guys that are not coming to my head right now.
Years. It's been happening
years and years
and
years. 15 wasn't a problem because you had a good team. You had Osuna. You had Sanchez bouncing back and forth.
Yeah.
It was a good team. 16, same thing, kind of. But when you have a bad team like this, you're protecting guys in the minors on the 40-man, like Patrick Murphy, I believe, who is not a top, well, he's a top prospect, but he wasn't before, and he has potential. But then you let guys like Kirby Sneed in AAA, a lefty, for crying out loud. You need a freaking lefty, and you're letting him walk. Last year, it was Travis Bergen, who went off to San Francisco, and we got him back. The Jays got him back because he didn't perform. The year before that, it was Jordan Romano, who got picked up by the White Sox, traded to the Rangers. We got him back. Romano screwed around with last year, threw hard, had a couple rough outings. Yeah,
he was another one of those guys
year.
who just went up
and
down, showed good signs.
Meza, when he was healthy, was a mainstay. Schaefer was a mainstay for a bit. Giles was a mainstay. Barnes, before last year, was a mainstay.
Yeah.
Tepera, who's now a free agent, was a mainstay. Sucked. Couldn't stand that guy. There's 5 guys. You have guys like Leiter Jr. coming up on waiver claims. And yes, do I support waiver claims? Yes. Do I support a waiver claim on Mark Leiter Jr.? No, I don't. Because he was garbage in Philly, and he's been garbage his entire life, respectfully. But he doesn't fit the build. He doesn't. And
he doesn't. He really doesn't.
Minor leaguers, give him a shot. Kevin Pillar was what was he? He was a 28 round pick or later, 28 or 48, something insane like that.
And now he ended up with more MVP
got
votes
an
than
MVP
Bryce
vote,
Harper.
For Christ's sake. He's a starting center fielder in San Francisco who's in as bad or worse a spot than the Jays. And he shouldn't have got an MVP vote. But you can use that as leverage to say, well, he did. And guys like that work out. Starting pitching, too. They got, right now, Chase Anderson, Matt Shoemaker. They got young guys, Thornton and all those guys coming up. And it's frustrating to watch this team. If they sign Zach Wheeler, great. If they don't, and they sign like Tanner Rourke or someone who I don't hate, but great. What's the goal? You're signing Wheeler's one thing, Rourke's another. 33. What are you expecting to compete next year?
Yeah,
what? You're going up against
one of those
Oakland,
guys you sort of want to just
the Twins, the White Sox, the Rays, the Yankees, Boston, because they're going to come back. Boston's not staying down. It's infuriating to watch this team screw around with guys like that. And not just pitchers. Urania, too.
Yeah,
Pompey, when he was in 15.
Urania's hitting fine.
It's mind-boggling. Alan Hansen didn't work out.
Yep.
Mark Leiter Jr. didn't work out. Guys like that, it happens. I get it. But if you don't give it a shot, it ain't working.
Or if you don't act on when they haven't worked out.
Nobody's expecting them to sign Garrett Cole or Strasburg, Rendon, any of those guys, because they don't want to. It's Canada, it's a whole different thing. Wheeler's a different ball game. I had hopes that they would go after Odorizzi before he accepted the qualifying offer. Nothing you can do. But show us that you have a grasp of some reality on the team.
Or even show us you care. Just show us you're in a race with someone. If they don't win, I don't blame a guy for taking more money in a different place. It's what you do, but at least show interest.
A guy like Satsugo, a guy like Senga, a guy like Hirsch or Shipley, for people like me, will bring interest to the team on a bad team. And I get it. You have prospects. You like them. You're not going to screw around with them. Anthony Kane, Nate Pearson. The list goes on. They have one of the best farm systems in the league. But for guys who they need to eat innings and they need to be utility guys, Eric Sogard, great example of that. Great.
Goes to Tampa and shows nothing.
He was the infield version of Daniel Hudson.
Yeah.
You sign him for nothing. He performs like hell, like really, really, really good. Goes to Tampa, keeps doing it. I don't even know if they've announced who they got from Tampa for that. Certainly nobody noteworthy. Now, do you expect him to get somebody noteworthy? No. But you can't get nobody for it. You can't get Thomas Hatch for David Phelps. You can't do it.
Worse than a nobody is nobody, and that's what they got for Freddie Galvis.
Freddie Galvis. What the hell was that? You're a bad team. People like Galvis. They like Hudson. You ship him out. Fine. You get the Reds got him for next year, and he's a starting shortstop.
The saddest thing is
he's going to be a big part of their wild card push next year. At the All-Star
break, we got rid of our 1 and 2 hitters, and what do we get back?
Nothing.
Cash as of right now.
Player to be named later. If they work out, great. There have been guys that have worked out before.
Our 1 and 2 hitters for cash. That's just you can't.
It's mind-boggling to me.
You just can't.
And it's not just the Jays. We're running out of time on this, so we're gonna move on from the MLB. A little bit of NBA, and then we'll wrap it up because it's getting insane. Carmelo Anthony signed with the team. Holy smokes!
Yeah,
that took a while. The Raptors keep winning.
The Raptors have smoked their last 2 opponents. I think Orlando and Charlotte, just not even close.
Yeah.
Doncic, I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw that.
He has to be in the MVP race. I mean, 2 points in the second half isn't very, it doesn't stick out, but 33 in the first quarter, 22 in one half. Or in one quarter, sorry.
I'm sweating thinking about the Blue Jays still. But anyways, yeah, Vucevic.
And yeah, worse news for the Magic after getting smoked by the Raptors with Vucevic.
That was double whammy.
One of the top centers in the league. He's out 4 weeks.
Yeah, the Nets are screwing around. That's the whole thing I don't even know about because I don't follow this. But yeah, it's weird.
And just another stupid thing coming out of the NBA. I mean, there's tons of stupid news in that league, but Patrick Beverley getting a notice from the NBA about flopping is just a joke. I don't know if you saw the actual clip.
I did not.
It was he touched the guy's jersey and it was like a fake elbow to the face, and he flew from about the 3-point line into the bench, and it was just
weird NBA year so far. The Raptors are looking good. Teams are looking good. The Bucks are looking good. Golden State looks trash. I mean, they've had injuries.
Understandably, if you look at their lineup,
they cannot complain about anything. Imagine all the Golden State haters and watching them suffer like this. This is like porn to all the freaking Golden State haters.
The Rockets fans, I don't think anyone loves watching this more than Rockets fans.
Yeah, it's insane.
You bring in Westbrook and you just take a dump on all the Golden State fans, and
it's beautiful to watch. I
think the Western
Golden
Conference
State Warriors.
This year
They're 3-12 or 3-13, 3-12, something like that.
Start.
It's injuries. Curry's out. Guys have left. This and that.
They have D'Angelo Russell and a bunch of bench guys, and
Russell's injured still, right? Like it's messed up.
No, he came back.
Oh, he came back.
And he's been playing well, but
big whoop. They're 3-12.
One guy can't win games.
Apparently, didn't change that much. Anyways, so then a lot happened in a bunch of sports. This podcast, I believe, is going to end up being a hell of a lot longer than the last one, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Hopefully stuff like this happens again for next week. So then we have more stuff to talk about. More quality content, if you will.
That is always the end goal.
Yeah, so to wrap it up, a lot of stuff happened. Babcock's no longer head coach. Yay.
And yay for Leafs fans.
Yeah, I'm happy about it. Keefe's going to do well. The Jays got to do something. And then NFL's messed up like usual. So we're going to wrap it up here. I'm your host, Gus Cousins, along with Ben Jordan. And Smokey Ram doing all the tech stuff, making this run smoothly. Thanks for listening if you did. And we'll be back next week. See you then.